Well. Saturday, September 21st, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm Bob Harris. It is time for the weekly Ask Me Anything live stream. But before I get to your questions, footballguys.com, that's the website. I appreciate you joining me here every Saturday at this very time. Also, Tuesdays, 7 p.m. for my On the Hot Seat live streams. I had Fantasy Football Diagnostics podcast host John June on Tuesday. He was great. We talked some waiver wire stuff. We're going to do that every Tuesday. This coming Tuesday, Stacey Perez from Fantasy and Frames will join me. Anywho, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. If you previously completed those tasks, please like me or dislike me. Just engage, people. That's what it's all about. Engage with me, Bob Harris. No, I'm not Cecil. I'm not Sigmund. I'm Bob. I broke into the Audible back room and set this thing up kind of with their permission. No, we're good to go. We're going to do this every Saturday here. We're going to talk lineups, news, see what's going on. Good to see all my friends here and new faces. John Fusick. Look at Andrea's in here as always. Hi, Theo. How are you? Good to see you. Albert is in the house as well. Good morning. And we will get to your questions. I do want to run through some newsy things. Theo, kind of you to acknowledge my existence. I am not Cecil. You can tell by the hair. Thank you, Pody Jen Stoner. I appreciate your presence as well. Linda's in the house. My whole crew is here. This is beautiful. I'm not handsome enough to dislike. It's true. I am like every man. Lester, good to see you. They're coming. They are coming home. They'll be back. Cecil and Sigmund will be returning. See the questions for you. Let's just run through some of the top storylines this week and see how I feel about them and how you feel about them and what some of your questions end up being here. I'm excited. Week 3, we're starting to get a little normalization. Maybe we'll get a little more offense. Would love to see that. Look, this is the winning. No, it's a reverse dinky. It's about 15 years old. It's a beauty. I love it. Wish it stayed in tune for more than a single song. That Yamaha, on the other hand, with the Floyd Rose, thing hasn't been out of tune in 20 years. And they will visit. They'll visit on the regular. Love those guys. Looking to get back on the couch again soon myself. Hello, Hoosier Vid Devos. Good to see you. Sometimes, yes, exactly. Thank you, Producer D. Appreciate that. So I mentioned there are stories this week. And I started saying week 3 is here, and we're starting to feel a little normalization. Seems like we'll start getting more offense. It's been a kind of a slow start to the week. The passing games seem like they're a little behind. We do have some injuries. Thank you. Worked on those magazines for many years. In case you don't know me, Bob Harris, who is this guy in Cecil and Sigmund's domain? And again, I have their permission. It's okay. I'm the new guy at Football Guys because I spent the last 30 plus years working for fantasy sports publication and Football Diehards. The magazines were something we worked on annually. I was super proud of that. And circumstances forced me into a new home, and it's a great landing place and one of the best work homes ever because Cecil Sig, Joe Bryant, Kluge, Alfredo, even Joey Wright's okay. Thank you, Lester. I appreciate that. I was wondering where you were. So the news. Let's just run through some things because it'll get out of hand if we don't. The quarterback situations. Justin Herbert seems like fairly dicey, right? High ankle sprain. Could be the Easton Stick weekend. If you're going to have an Easton Stick weekend, maybe it's good to have it against Pittsburgh. No, probably not. So we'll see. It's a high ankle sprain. He says he's going to play. He wasn't a QB1 option anyhow. Jordan Love probably was a QB1 option or is if he plays. I don't think he's going to play. Like they're calling him questionable. They're keeping this in the open, and Josh Jacobs, got the Jordan Mason note. Apparently, they put down in Green Bay note, don't ask, don't tell, or don't tell even when they ask. Love listed as questionable. Did not, worked on a limited basis, but has not necessarily been medically cleared to play, was the way Matt LaFleur. So might still need some clearance. Might still get it. Could be the great Malik Willis revenge game in Tennessee. So we'll see. It's tough defense there, right? Russell Wilson's not going to play. He's listed as questionable. Don't expect him. Running back issues galore. We've got Joe Mixon listed as doubtful. Damian Pierce is out, so it's the Cam Akers show. Dario Ogunbowale is in there as well. Might see him. It's somewhere Matt Waldman is rubbing his hands together. Loves Chris Brooks. He's now with the Green Bay Packers, and of course with Marshawn Lloyd on IR. That's a thing, right? So that's something we'll be watching as well. But again, Cam Akers looks like he has a clear path to workload. I know people are viewing him as a pretty solid running back too, and maybe with a little more upside depending on how it plays out. Minnesota's not an easy defense to run against, but not like that daunting. Kenneth Walker the third, out again this week, or at least listed as doubtful. He's not going to play. If you saw the video of him out on the X machine running and grabbing at his side, I mean, it's not a good sign. Just running in a straight line. So wonder how long that's going to play. Until it is, Zach Charbonnet is going to be the primary running back there. I think he well over 90% of the snaps, all the running back carries anyway. So keep him in your lineups, especially today. Should be a good game, or tomorrow. It's only Saturday, people. Raheem Mostert listed as doubtful. Sounds like he won't play. This is going to be a big Devon Achane week, you have to imagine, with Skylar Thompson and a quarterback. The dump off should be fast and furious. The run should be fast and furious. Maybe they start working Jalen Wright in a little more. I have him on a lot of rosters, kind of, a contingent upside, playing a lot of my drafts that still has not come to fruition. Don't need to force him in now. And probably won't do that. Good morning, Paulie. Good to see you. So glad I'm getting my lineups right and saving you a little bit of work. In the death match, it does seem like Sunday to me. It's been a long week already. It's been a long week. So plenty going on there. With Achane, this looks like, you saw him get a super heavy workload last week. I'm expecting more of the same going forward against Seattle. So should be a nice week for him. Tyjae Spears listed as questionable. Sounds like he's going to play. He did the usual. This seems like the most Tennessee thing. It goes back to the Jeff Fisher days. No practice Wednesday, limited Thursday, full practice Friday, questionable designation later that day. It's like Brian Callahan carrying on a tradition. Let's see. Tank Bigsby seems, we won't know. It's a Monday night game, so we won't know till later today what the designation is, but I'd expect questionable there. Pierre Strong's ruled out for Cleveland. The wide receiver room, Justin Jefferson is going to play. Jordan Addison is not. Jefferson, if you saw, took a massive knee to the thigh. That'll leave a good bruise. I'm sure there are some fluids being withdrawn from that. So we'll see how he holds up in this one. Man, Sam Darnold, what the hell's going on there? And again, no Jordan Addison. CeeDee Lamb's good to go. Everyone's good to go in Dallas. That includes Jake Ferguson this week. He's off the injury report. A.J. Brown's ruled out again for Philadelphia. Oh, look at Tootsie Pop in the house. I'll get to that question, young lady, very soon. And it just seems like, for me, so every week on Saturday, my in and out column comes out. If you haven't seen it yet, I try and be a little bit edgy. And so my edginess this week has me a little bit out on Jalen Hurts. His numbers aren't as great with A.J. Brown. Look, he still was a run for over 100 yards in 2 games against the Saints. He's got tons of running upside. But is he going to hit that? Look, on FanDuel, he's second most expensive on DraftKings, third most expensive on FanDuel. I worry about him hitting that number. I worry about writing that article. Trying to be edgy makes for scary television viewing on Sundays. I can assure you that, peoples. Cooper Kupp out. We all know that. So the Rams without Puka Nacua, without Cooper Kupp. I'm not sure Kyron Williams, the Rams are, it's against San Francisco. This seems like it's going to be a long afternoon. I know if you had picked up Demarcus Robinson, was disappointing last week, I'd probably stick with it. Jordan Whittington is the flashy name because he's going to be running out of the slot. Tutu Atwell, Tyler Johnson in the mix there as well. Texans injuries, no injuries at wide receiver. Nico Collins, there was a little concern earlier in the week. No concern now. But I was mentioning the San Francisco, no Christian McCaffrey, no Deebo Samuel. George Kittle is now doubtful, so there'll be no George Kittle. Fire up your Brandon Ayuk shares. I know there'll be a lot of attention focused on him. Also, the Rams seem like they struggle to stop. Jameson Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. would like you to know that Brandon Ayuk is a good play this week. So we'll watch that. T. Higgins seems likely to play this week. So watch out for that. He has been practicing this week, says he's 100% sure. We've heard that from people like Christian McCaffrey. We'll watch the injury designations. If he doesn't have an injury designation, I'm all in against the Washington Commanders. Keenan Allen out. Rome Odunze good to go. What else do we have there? Josh Downs is back, but Michael Pittman Jr. is questionable. Might be doing us all a favor won't keep trying to shoehorn him into lineups until we see something more from him. Josh Palmer, questionable. Evan Ingram, unlikely to play, it seems, again this week. Could that make some room for Christian Kirk? I see a lot of questions out there about him, or saw some questions about him. We'll discuss that. David Njoku out. Taysom Hill is questionable as well. So there we've kind of set the plate. I see the questions are rolling in. So let's get to those. So now that we're like 10 minutes into questions, follow Andrea's lead. Give me a first name, last name, or first initial, last name, and who they're playing. Helps me process a little faster. Like, I know it, but we're trying to go pretty fast here and would like to get through as many as I can. So like at the end of the show, I don't feel like a heel for not getting to everyone's questions. And we'll stop and take some detours along the way. You know how it is. There's a lot to talk about. Week 3 question time. Let's go. I don't know. Is this like these seem like Ooh, I'm probably picking Skylar Thompson. I'm almost always playing a quarterback there. PPR, Jacob. It's hard for me not to. He can dump off. He's got huge playmaking threats. I think the big question about Miami is how we view Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle going forward, right? Like, like you're not going to get the return on investment you expected, I don't believe, but you're going to get return on investment, and the decision points on how to play them is going to be tough. So I get it. Let's see. John Fusek. Hello, John. Prescott versus Baltimore, Baker versus Denver. I know the projections this week have Baker like one click ahead. I think that's not unreasonable. I would probably play Baker Mayfield. I know it's going to be a tough day for Courtland Sutton. Maybe. I don't know. The Bucs defense is secondary is pretty decimated, but also for Mike Evans again. But Chris Godwin can carry this thing, and maybe have a lot more Rashad White this week than we saw last week. Here's a Christian Kirk question that I referred to. He might, right? So, like, I don't want to be totally dismissive of this. And I wrote this. I like Brian Thomas Jr. is my out at wide receiver only because I'm trying to pick somebody inside the starting range. There's a lot of good projections this week. It was hard and a lot of good matchups. But I wonder about this offense in general. Until I see something more from it, I'm not that excited. But Christian Kirk might have a little more leeway than he normally would. Like right now, we have to realize Gabe Davis is the most targeted receiver in that offense. Gabe Davis, not the most productive. Brian Thomas Jr. is. We have not seen hide nor hair hardly of Christian Kirk. That could change if with Evans out. Maybe that opens up some space for him to get something done. I'm not, if I have to, I will. But if I don't have to, I would rather not. No worries about spelling errors. I translate. It is good times. Does everyone know who I am? I'm Bob Harris. By the way, if my weekly scheduled football guys, the Fantasy Notebook comes out on Thursdays. I do a polarizing players article with Gary Davenport, my old friend. On Friday, Saturdays, the In and Out comes out. You can hear me every day, pretty much on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 10 to midnight. Saturday night tonight, 8 to 11 Eastern time. We're on NFL radio, but it's also simulcast on the fantasy channel. Simulcasting is a very fancy thing. They do it like to save money, I think. Whatever. I like being on more channels. Sunday morning, Jeff Manns and I on the pregame show on Sirius XM Fantasy from 11 to 1. It's a ton of fun. Baker or Jaden Daniels, playing the Jaden Daniels rushing upside probably pretty much every time. Would love for him to start throwing. Hopefully the Bengals offense gets on track and forces him to go deep. I would like to see a Terry McLaurin sighting. That would be delightful as well. But yeah, I'm playing Jaden Daniels right now. I love Baker. They're both top 10 quarterbacks. So there you have it there. Andrea showing us how to do it. Zay Flowers versus Dallas, London versus KC, Juwan Jennings versus LA Rams, Brian Robinson Jr. versus Cincinnati half-point PPR. So I was thinking about Brian Robinson Jr. last night and wondering if this game gets out of hand. Like, do we all think this? Am I the only one who thinks like this is the week Cincinnati's offense comes to life, assuming T. Higgins is ready to go, and also because Washington, who doesn't come to life, at least passing-wise? So if that's the case, I'm a little worried about Brian Robinson. Zay Flowers is my locked-in wide receiver. It's an easy call here. So the next question is whether I go London or Brian Robinson Jr. Robinson does have a little receiving equity, but like if it's flipped, if they were behind, could I see an occasion. Like one thing about Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, I feel, took a step forward in week 2. Was it a huge step? Was it a full step? I don't know. The Eagles defense is not very daunting. The pass rush of the Chiefs is a little more daunting. I'm probably slightly done. You know what? Let's look at what the projections say. I think that's reasonable to do in this case when I feel like it's that close. Ryan Robinson Jr. projected at, and I love our projection teams, 12.1, 12.51. London, 13.37. I'm going to go with that, Andrea. I know it's so easy to cop out, right? And it really is. In my mind, it was that close, and that kind of tells you how close the situation was, Andrea. Chuck Wilson, Terry McLaurin, Austin Eckler, or Bucky Irvin. I'm probably going Terry McLaurin there and hoping for the best. Like we've seen Bucky Irvin, we saw his numbers go up last week, but Rachaad White was a little beat up. Game didn't quite go, I think this is a better game for Rachaad White this week, and the projections totally agree. Josh Downs versus Bears, Gabe Davis versus Bills, or roll with Higgins if active Monday night PPR league. If Higgins is not on the injury report, I'm going there. If not, I might give Josh Downs a shot. I'm really eager to see him. I know I talked to James Boyd from The Athletic, and he could not say enough great things about his expectations. And like, we know Michael Pittman's fallen short. Look, we know Anthony Richardson's numbers have not been great. By the way, go back and look at the first season numbers for guys like Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck and compare them to Anthony Richardson's before you come yelling at me about Anthony Richardson. I am still the hammer. Anthony Richardson is still my nail. I'm going for that. Look, there are going to be ups and downs for sure. And same with Jane Daniels. But these Konami Code quarterbacks, for me, the upside is too tantalizing. I hope I've built rosters that allow me to carry the weeks when they don't show up or they have lackluster performances. I think they'll be fewer and farther between. I do like Josh Downs an awful lot. Gabe Davis, as I mentioned, has been the most targeted asset in this passing attack. I'd like to see more from this offense. Higgins is the easy call if he has no injury designation today. If he's questionable, we know how that goes, right? Have yourself a fallback. There's 2 Monday night games. So you can do Gabe Davis. So you do have Davis. So that would probably be my choice. And remember, you've got your window, your inactive announcement windows overlap. You'll know, right? So I want to say, let me just make sure I'm not being nonsensical here, because nonsensical is not necessarily my favorite lane. Come here, schedule. So we've got Jacksonville and Buffalo is first. You'll know the inactives, though, I believe, before the start of before kickoff of Jacksonville. It'll be tight, but you should know. Godwin or Evans or both. Godwin slightly. I would probably split it up, and Pat Surtain is a real thing. So I'm playing Evans in leagues where I have him, but if I have Godwin and Evans, I'm probably playing the one. I realize Lester would like both. I'm thinking one. I like how daunting is that? It's been pretty daunting so far. Let me just look at some numbers real quick. So Metcalf and George Pickens have totaled about 11 fantasy points this year. I think DK was under 6. George Pickens was 5-ish. The numbers per Mike Clay. The two combined for 35 of 42 routes. Metcalf 3 for 29, 2 for 29 for Pickens. So Evans does move into the slot, so that gives him a little relief at times. So I mean, like I said, I think he's playable. But I think right now Godwin is the piece I'd like to play if I had the choice. Ooh, CDM Sports. Look at that. Good morning, Sir Bonsalot. How are you? Cleveland going to 1-2 punch with the Giants in the mouth of Jerome Ford. It's entirely possible. It's entirely possible. I don't know what to make of this split, right? We saw last week it was like a 3-way split, basically, until Pierre Strong Jr. started the second half of that game, Marky Mark. It was nerve-wracking. Deonta Foreman's a guy I'm heavily invested in, definitely in best ball, last round flyer, but also some in redraft for that same reason. He was available in last rounds. So I'm hoping he gets a little more run. He got a hell of a lot more carries this past game than he did the week before, and he got more than Ford, by the way. So yeah, I'm if you're a little desperate, I can get it. There you go. All right, Andrea, here we go. Watson versus Tennessee, Jennings versus Rams, Mooney versus KC, Hubbard versus Vegas. Oh, Malik Willis cobbled it together, right? Like Jennings versus Rams is a pretty favorable matchup. That is so tempting. Mooney, I thought looked great. Mooney has looked really good. My concern more is Kirk Cousins in this game, playing a better pass rush than we did. I'd like to see how that plays out before I play it. I mean, I could play Hubbard. I think I'm leaning Watson and Jennings right now. Andrea, let me just check some numbers for you. I think the projections are super concerned about. The projections say Jennings and Hubbard. I'll go with that because I kind of share in the concern. Like, if it's an early kickoff, so if we find out it's Jordan Love, I might switch over from Watson to Hubbard, but go Hubbard, Jennings for now. Just picked up Brooks in the Dynasty League. Nicely done. Michael T would like my thoughts on dealing Richardson, Laporta, London, and Charbonnet for Jefferson and Lamar. Already have St. Brown and Puka, Bowers, and JSN. Puka might not be back until week 9, just so you know. I mean, Charbonnet probably has a shelf life, but we don't know what it is, right? Jefferson, Lamar, I'm probably doing this. I mean, we'll see if Laporta normalizes. If you invested in Sam Laporta, you're obviously not in panic mode. Well, you might be in panic mode. You probably shouldn't panic, but it's not been good, right? I mean, it's like Jameson Williams is been dominant on the targets ahead of him. Last week we saw Amon-Ra St. Brown get his turn, so maybe this week we see Sam Laporta get his turn to shine, or maybe all three of them can share the workload. I was up for Amon-Ra, 19 last week targets, 11 for Williams, and just a couple for Laporta. And the week before it was similar with Jameson Williams leading the way, and both Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown shut out. I'm probably doing this. I mean, like, I love Richardson, but do I love him exponentially more than Lamar? No, I like Lamar slightly more, and I like Jefferson exponentially more than I like Laporta. London, I don't know what I'm going to get there. Charbonnet, I don't know what I'm going to get. He's got a shelf life. I mean, I think you're probably giving up maybe a little too much. I maybe take Charbonnet out of the mix if you can. My only SPN league, I have AJ Brown, Ingram, and KW Kenneth Walker the third. That is a rough call. Oh, I see what you're. Yeah, that's rough. Trevor Lawrence versus Buffalo or Carr versus Philadelphia. You're going to hear me like an awful lot about go read my fantasy notebook this week. It's totally free if you're not a subscriber. If you are a subscriber, it was already totally free anyway. But I lay out the Saints offense and what my thoughts are for this matchup. Also on the in and out, Derek Carr is my in at quarterback. I think he's got top 5 potential. And like, I'm not chasing points here. I'm looking at what's happening, and what's happening is obvious if you have not watched the Saints. And maybe you thought week 1 it was the Carolina Panthers defense that can't do a damn thing. And then week 2, you saw, oh my gosh. And now all of a sudden the Saints have 91 points through 2 games. And you're thinking, is this real or is it a mirage? What happened? Why are they so much better? Why are the long balls working? Why is Alvin Kamara suddenly seem way more effective? And here's why. His name is Clint Kubiak, and he brings this San Francisco style offense with him from San Francisco, where he was the passing game coordinator. But also, you look at the play action rate, their play action rate, it went from like less than 15% last year to almost 50% this year. You look at the pre-snap motion. This is huge, right? This is the Mike McDaniel plan. Get guys moving, get people going at full speed as the defense is flat-footed when the ball is snapped. Pre-snap motion is almost like up to, what was it? I saw Rich Rebar talking about it. Like, I want to say close to 50% as well, up from like 11% last year. These are huge seismic differences. The offensive line is playing slightly better. I know they're not where they need to be there, but anyone who thought Alvin Kamara's washed didn't pay attention last year. He wasn't getting any blocking. He was had less than a yard before contact, right? He's getting a little more now, and they're running more beneficial plays. So I like the Saints an awful lot. I don't know that they'll keep putting up historic numbers because they're historic. It's hard to produce at a historic pace on a continuous basis, but they're very good. Carr, hitting the long ball better than any other quarterback at a better rate than any other quarterback dating back to last year. This year, it's even more effective. Rashid Shaheed getting the job done. Would like Chris Olave to join the party, but a lot to like about this offense. Thank you for coming here, Will C. I appreciate this and love seeing you. Good morning, says Nick Perone. Pick your poison, Jalen Waddle or T. Higgins. I'm drinking the T. Higgins poison if at all possible. And again, you're going to want to see what the injury report looks like later today. My hope is he's off it altogether. He's practiced. I know Jason Wood, football guy, one of our top projectors there, is totally sold on this. I'm pretty sold on this. I was pretty sold on Christian McCaffrey playing in week 1, too, until he didn't. So I'm open-minded to seeing how this goes. I would want to play T. Higgins enough to try to get myself a pivot in one of the 2 games, right? And you've got 2 games to choose from. So, because you can hit that window, as I mentioned earlier. So do that and play Higgins if you can. Like Jalen Waddle can make plays. He can take it to the house from anywhere, just like Tyreek Hill. But I mean, if we're not resetting our expectations for Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, we're not thinking correctly. I think Skylar Thompson may end up being more competent than we think. And again, all those guys are capable of making big plays. But man, given the matchup and T. Higgins, and look, this is something else, that I've talked about before that I'm going to talk about again because I think it's important. Guys coming off extended absences, is kind of a little up in the air what you can expect to get. I'm thinking Higgins after a full week of practice should be good. He also getting a full training camp, unlike some other players who got off to slow starts. Looking at you, Brandon Ayuk. It's going to light it off this week. Quentin Johnson or Jerome Ford at the flex. Given the uncertainty at quarterback, I'm probably going to go with Jerome Ford, but I'm going to acknowledge there's, to me, some uncertainty there. He's projected fairly highly. I think I think we're projecting him for almost 13 points. That you mean Ford? Let me see where we got Quentin Johnston. Because I think we have to factor in they're valued about equally, right? So it's a very tough call. And with Pierre Strong out, maybe that makes it a little easier for me to go to Ford. But they're playing the New York Giants makes it slightly more easy. And the fact that it's Pittsburgh that I'm worried about for the Chargers and Justin Herbert. Have you guys heard of TJ Watt? They tell me he's very good. The pass rush could be insane. So even if it's Justin Herbert and he has a hard time protecting himself, that's not good, right? He's got no mobility. And if it's Easton Stick, could end up being Taylor Heineke before the day is over. Because, I mean, do I feel good about him? No. So I'm probably going forward on this one and playing it safe. Chicago D. Godwin, Waddle, DJ Moore, J-Mo, and a 10-team standard need 2. Jameson Williams, DJ Moore for me. Godwin. I forgot Godwin. I thought this was an easy question for a second. It's a little tougher than I thought. Boy, it's hard to get away from Godwin. I'm probably going Godwin and Moore. That's heartbreaking to not play Jameson Williams. You've got 3 top 20-ish options in that group. It's going to be a tough call. If you wanted to play Jameson Williams over DJ Moore, I wouldn't play. You got to play Godwin, though. I totally overlooked him. Tyreek Hill, Rashee Rice, Godwin at 0.5 PPR. Need 2 of them as well. Playing Godwin again. Probably playing Hill, but I would I'm going to go to the projections on this one. This is very tough. We still have Tyreek Hill inside the top 10. Also have Rashee Rice inside the top 10. Also have Chris Godwin inside the top 10. If you're going to go by the algorithm here or the rankers, I always say the algorithm because we use an algorithm at Football Diehards. We have actual human rankers here. Rashee Rice, Godwin, and Hill is their order. All inside the top 10. You need to trade somebody. Do you have a weakness on your roster? Plug that hole by trading a wide receiver. It might be hard to trade Tyreek Hill. I get it right now. Best ball this week and a lot of questionables and outs. Best ball is going to be a mess this year early on. Pick one, Amari Cooper or Jalen Waddle or Brian Thomas Jr. I'm probably going with Amari Cooper in this one. A lot of talk, a lot of buzz. I feel like there's a handful of players who, I don't want to call it the Marvin Harrison Jr. effect, but kind of like that, like a horrible week one, very disappointing, almost shockingly so. You see players like Travis Kelce coming up a little short. You see players like Amari Cooper coming up a little short, guys that should be top assets on their team. At some point, the momentum to get them corrected happens. I suspect it might be this game against the Giants. Ellen, is that like hello? Christian Kirk versus Buffalo. Andrea. Yeah, I'm going Kirk in that one, Andrea, unless it's Jordan Love. All right, Tootsie Pop, I caught up with you. Hope you're doing well, Rachel. Start two, Ayuk, Shakir, Wandale, Yoshivas, and Higgins. I'm going to go Ayuk. I kind of like Shakir this week. I mean, you got lots of good choices. I'm going to go Ayuk, and I want to play Higgins if he's playing. You can go Yoshivas if not. So I think that's an easy pivot for you. Huskers, that sounds like college football. I am totally afraid of ghosts. Oh, Francisco Baltazar. Start Deontay my flex for Josh Downs, considering Pittman did not practice Friday and now is questionable. We now know it's back and calf. I'm still starting Deontay. Here's why. Love the coffee, people. All right. So the change of quarterback is a reason, and we could break down the metrics. I don't like to dig too deep into the weeds for these discussions because it eats up a lot of time. But the on-target percentage, and I know I'm the guy who argues that lousy quarterback play does not necessarily wreck good wide receivers or great wide receivers. It has not done Deontay well, but I don't know if it's as much the bad quarterback play, because was the quarterback play from Bryce Young any better last year when Adam Thielen was wide receiver 12 over the first 12 weeks of the season? He finished as wide receiver 18. Was it really that much worse? The on-target numbers, though, were not great for Deontay Johnson, who, by the way, is the best separator over the last 2 years. Most yards, most open yards per ESPN's metrics of any receiver each of the last 2 years over every receiver in football, right? So if somebody can get him the ball, you think it's a big deal. I keep going back to last year. Andy Dalton started a game against Seattle with Bryce Young having an ankle injury. And Adam Thielen got 145 yards in that game. Huge game. I wonder if Deontay Johnson doesn't get a similar treatment, or at least more on target. The on-target percentage goes from the 50s to the 60s. I think this is a team that's going to be out to, show something. So, by the way, I wholeheartedly agree with that. If you're not liking me, you should be disliking me. You should be doing one or the other. I would appreciate it greatly. Like the interaction. The interaction makes me feel good about myself. I know you worry about that. Should I trade Laporta for Bowers or another chop choice, or stand pat? Maybe worried about Jameson Williams. Look, I don't think that's an unfair trade. Bowers has turned into a thing, right? So I don't think Laporta's condition is permanent. I don't think this is terminal, but it's not great. Bowers is great, and I think this looks like going forward. Gardner Minshew's getting the job done reasonably well. We will say that the numbers, the numbers have been off the charts with Bowers. I want to say top 3 or 4. I mean, so far this season, it's been phenomenal. I don't see that dialing back. I think he and Adams are going to end up outproducing expectations. I know Adams still was drafted highly, but people never felt good about it. I think they'll feel better about it when all is said and done. And yes, I'm in on Zamir White again this week. Don't judge me. I'm a sucker for a good matchup. So, but yes, I think this is, I think this is a reasonable deal. Do we really think Laporta is going to hit the same upside as last year? A lot of Laporta's the top tight end status came from double-digit touchdowns. Are we feeling like he's going to get those again this year? And volume, well, so far he hasn't gotten that. I think the volume will normalize to a degree, but I don't think it'll go back to what it was last year, because for the reason you said, worried about Jameson Williams. I don't think I don't think the sunk cost on Laporta, it's a sunk cost. You're not getting that back. But if you could make a trade for Brock Bowers, that might help you regain some of that, I feel. Andrea, Samaje Perine versus Atlanta, Jordan Whittington versus San Francisco, Khalil Shakir versus Jacksonville. I'm probably going Shakir there. Nobody knows what to make of this Chiefs backfield. We're all taking wild guesses. It could go anyway. What we do know this week, it won't be Kareem Hunt. Next week, we'll be having a different conversation, or not, right? Carson Steele is a total unknown to me. Could he come in, get 2 or 3 goal line looks and make good on them? Sure. I saw people spending 30% of their fab budgets on Carson Steele this week. I don't know what he's going to be. Samaje Perine, could he turn into the next Jerick McKinnon as a receiving asset? He's also capable of running. Clyde Edwards-Helaire will be back soon. Will he be okay? We don't know. The post-traumatic stress disorder he's dealing with. We just don't know. Could Kareem Hunt come out of nowhere? I'm not even mentioning Keontae Ingram. Maybe for good reason, maybe not. But there's a lot to suss out here. I'm probably going Shakir here, Andrea. Oscar O. Traded Pitts and Tank Dell, got Jamar Chase, but I remain without a tight end in the IR spot. He has TJ Hawkinson. Can I survive until he's ready? Ertz, Gesicki, Jonnu Smith, Taysom Hill. Like, Ertz seems like he might do the job. I think any of those, I think they're all, going to have weeks. I think Ertz might be the most consistently productive of that group. That'll get you through. I think it might be a long wait for Hawkinson, though. I'm not as optimistic as Hawkinson about Hawkinson. And I'll tell you why. Because he hurt himself, it was late in the season, whether it was week 15, 16. Either way, it was multiple ligaments. So the MCL and LCL had to heal before they could repair the ACL. That didn't happen until January 29th. So if you're looking at the 9-month recovery time, I mean, that's October, right? And then he's got to work his way back. So I don't know. I've talked to people. Matthew Collar from purpleinsider.com, great guy covering that team, has shares of my skepticism. Nobody has not been dismissive of my skepticism. And I've talked to multiple writers who cover that team. And Matthew Collar kind of co-signed on it, so I cite him. But others didn't say one way or the other. They don't have a strong feeling about it. I'm playing a lot of Derek Carr this week. I mentioned him earlier. I think there's tons of upside. And he's $5,800. Super cheap. I'll be playing a lot of him. I haven't set all my lineups. I've just set one provisional lineup, so I'm working on that. I hope you have series. You can listen to the pregame show because we can dig into this in depth. And I don't want to cop out on this because, in the provisional lineup, I have Devin Achane. Let me look. Achane, I have Neighbors, I have Ayuk, I have Shaheed to go with Carr. I've got Charbonnet in the flex. Going to have a lot of him, I think. But it's just the one lineup, so I need to work through all that. I would suggest going to the Football Guys site. Devin Knotts has his usual piece up on his DFS plays that is always fantastic and that I look at carefully before I make my final decisions. But I'm just the process starts for me kind of today on really getting into the meat and bones of those. But I do have some top plays there, so I don't want to just totally bail on you. DeMarcus Robinson or Tank Dell. DeMarcus Robinson for me. Never feel like a heel. I'm always a heel. Juwan Jennings, Keith Carpenter. I don't see where he's going to play. He's going to have a role. I am doing that. Do Foreman, Dowdle, Irving, or Gus Bus as a second flex? Deontay Foreman, Dowdle, Irving, or Gus Bus as a second flex. Brian Thomas Jr. is first flex. I'm not huge on Thomas, but with this group, he would probably be mine. I might give Foreman a shot. Oh, it'd be Foreman or Gus hoping for the random goal line look. It's true. Cam Akers, wonderful PPR. Cam Akers, take that target of opportunity, Silence. Hi, Michael Kubiak. Appreciate you coming. Gabe Davis revenge game, baby. Oh, look at man. I'm not a huge revenge game guy. I leave those things to my friend Michael Fabiano. Curses the revenge games, but it is a revenge game, and he's the top targeted receiving asset here. It's shocking to me that with the pieces they have in this offense, Gabe Davis has drawn the most targets. You probably were just hearing me on Sirius because I was just on. And if you weren't, just go on the app right now and use the on demand and you can hear me again. You're welcome. Pick one, PPR, Jalen Waddle versus Seattle. Look at you picking it up. Hey, Huckleberry Pop-Tart. Brian Thomas Jr. versus Buffalo. Amari Cooper versus Giants. Probably leaning Cooper in this one. What to do with Keon Coleman and Ladd McConkey? Hold fast. Like I'm encouraged. So I don't know how long you've been following along with this. We did our draft live stream. We were all at a meeting with the football guys in Nashville, and I sat in with the fellas. And I was predicting the Keon Coleman selection for Buffalo before they made it. And it didn't surprise me because I think he's like one of these things was not like the other. They needed that piece, right? Because they don't have that big boundary weapon, and they had moved on from Stephon Diggs, who isn't the big boundary weapon but capable. So I like him a lot, and I know it's been hit or miss, but if we're looking for encouraging signs, it looks like Josh Allen trusts him, right? Josh Allen went to him, I want to say in the game against Miami, with some interesting passes. This is not good news for Dalton Kincaid, who needs the target share to increase dramatically. But I'm a hold on both these guys. I know in Ladd McConkey, Matt Waldman has super high hopes not hopes. I mean, he has a true belief that Ladd McConkey is going to be the top receiving asset on that team. Right now, it's Quentin Johnston, but like over the course of time, I'm not against what Matt says. If you look at the guy playing in the slot in these Greg Roman offenses going back, especially if you go back to when he and Harbaugh were together in San Francisco, that slot receiver gets a lot done. So I like Keon Coleman an awful lot. I think Ladd McConkey is going to be good, but it might be a long burn for those guys, right? Especially for Coleman. There'll be weeks where you're happy you have him and weeks where you go, how can I play this guy? Thought I answered this one to Demarcus Robinson. Enjoyed this. I love JJ Zacharyson. Love doing everything I do with him is great. He's a super cool dude and love his content. And I like him more off the field than I do on the field. I say that all the time, but it's true. He's just a great dude. Need one running back and one flex. Chuba Hubbard versus Vegas. Is Zamir White versus Carolina. Come on, Andrea. I'll throw that Zamir White. You're baiting the trap for me. Juwan Jennings, the Rams, Josh Downs versus Chicago, Keon Coleman versus Jacksonville, Darnell Mooney. I'm probably going with two running backs there. Could talk me into Juwan Jennings, possibly. Oh, brought Swift for Pollard to get him on the waiver wire. Should I feel dirty about it? Like one starter for another? I mean, like you should. I would you didn't have two defenses. Or two kickers or like two quarterbacks and you only needed one this week or is it like a little room? I don't know. I'm loath to give up a starting running back, even one that I don't have a strong affinity for Swift other than he's a starting running back and there doesn't seem to be, I know Khalil Herbert got the touchdown. It's very disturbing, but Swift seems to get the workload. Pollard's getting the workload right now. Pollard's a borderline running back one for me this week. So you should feel good about it this week. We'll see how it plays out. The real Schmitty. I'm in a Superflex 2 QB league, and my defense is San Francisco. Target 2 quarterbacks, Purdy, Stafford, and Fields. Oh, so I went the Fields route last week and was sadly disappointed. I need him to run more. Will he run more against the Chargers? I don't know. I don't like Purdy for sure. Man, it was so ugly last week for the Rams, and I don't know that it gets prettier this week. They're the biggest underdog of every game, right? I think there's probably a reason for that. Oh, I just want to double check the projections here on this one. Like you'll see me do this when I don't feel good about any options and I want to blame somebody else. I just have a great deal of faith in our rankers and our projectors. They do a great job. Wow. Yeah, they're more in on Justin Fields, way more on Justin Fields. It's an easy call. It's Purdy is quarterback 19, Fields quarterback 21, Matthew Stafford quarterback 30. I thought it would be closer between Stafford and Fields. It's not. Jaden, make it till he starts connecting with Scary Terry. Yes. 100% yes. I mean, like in a tournament, if you're looking to differentiate and people aren't in on McLaurin, like at some point, is it going to happen? The talk this week with Cliff Kingsbury, like if you're playing that edge, like I'd want to have a lot of lineups before I got to that one, but I may get to that lineup this week for sure. The prices are right. But Jaden Daniels naked every week is fine with me. I need Cincy to come to life this week. Don't we all? Cousins or Fields? Um, I I probably like Cousins a little more in this one, but it's super close, right? The projectors like Fields. It's 21-23. My concern with Cousins is we're gonna like have a really good feeling about what we saw in that last game. And I don't know if it was a true representation from where he's at because Philadelphia apparently can't rush the passer, or can they stop runners? I don't know. It's a tough, tough world out there. Like I'm hoping for like I might be having too much recency bias because Fields disappointed me against Denver last week. Fields is probably the smarter play here, just given the matchups. Yes. Cam Akers, easy call for me this week. I mean, he's going to get like unless you're worried about a lot of passing to Dari Ogunbowale, and I'm not. It's Cam Akers has solid running back two as he goes into this game based on workload alone, and probably running back one upside. T.J. Hawkinson. Yeah, I mean, how many do you have? All the spots? I mean, how many IR spots do you have? Do you have just one? Do you have to move on from Puka or AJ Brown? Because if I had to move on from either of those, I would rather not. And the order that I'd like to keep them is AJ Brown, Puka. I think Brown will be back sooner than Puka, who we've heard might be out until week 9. So that's a little bit of a concern. Hawkinson, I don't know when he's coming back. I feel like I'm like more skeptical on Hawkinson and Chuba and Nick Chubb than maybe the rest of the world. And I get the upside. It's huge when they're playing and when they're available. I don't know when they're going to be available. And I don't know why either team would force them back into the fray any sooner than they need to. These are long-term plays for them. So not even close. Akers. Again, I mentioned, and just to give you I'll give you the actual numbers here. Once I looked them up, I think Steele was running back. I want to say 31-ish. Let me bring up the projections for this week because it should be Stark. Akers is running back 26. Carson Steele is running back 33. And I think that's low on Akers. I think that's the low end on Akers. I'll be honest with you. So I'm higher on Akers than the projectors, but I think the Steele tells you, down there in well into the flex or the tail end of the flex. Trade Derek Carr, receive Anthony Richardson. You're asking the wrong person this question. I apologize for disqualifying myself. I want Anthony Richardson. I think, this is again, I do not expect historic production to continue, right? Derek Carr is I think they've scored on every one of his possessions on every drive he's been on. Jake Haener came in, so it wasn't every possession they've had, but I mean, Dallas had the interception, so they ran until, it's like almost every possession that he's played, they've scored. It's been fantastic. Anthony Richardson cannot say the same. I still see Anthony Richardson as the $1 million prize winning lottery ticket, but Derek Carr is the safer play. So it kind of depends on what you prefer. And never imagined we would be saying this, right? So I'm doing this trade because I love Anthony Richardson and I want that league winning upside. I think Carr is going to be in an offense way better than anyone expected, and he's going to be way more serviceable than anyone expected. But given the prices you paid for him, you probably have another quarterback. This is the key when you have Anthony Richardson. There's an injury risk. If you've mitigated that by having a solid backup quarterback, I'm all about having a player like Anthony Richardson, Jaden Daniels, Kyler Murray as your top piece. I think those three in particular, and they were available at various prices. So I have a lot of shares of all of them, depending on how the drafts played out, is great. And if Derek Carr was my second quarterback right now, I'd be considering playing him over Richardson this week. In fact, I would this week. I don't know that that's going to be the case every week. In fact, I think it will not be the case every week. But again, I should be disqualified. If you have not heard me before, I make no secret that if Anthony Richardson is the nail, I'm the hammer. I want some of that. I want some of that Jaden Daniels, the great Konami code quarterbacks to give you that league winning upside. That's what I'm after. It doesn't always work out. Sometimes the rest of your roster is determinant of that, right? Like you have super high end plays at other positions. Maybe you have a Devon Achane that gives you that super high upside, or a Justin Jefferson who can take it a 97 yards, or actually 127 yards to the house. I think that was the longest run ever of the next gen stats era. So there you go. I beat that horse to death. Who's your Devo 5? Halfway PPR 12 team, Superflex Foreman, Javante, Chandler, Downs. Probably going Javante there. By the way, it's almost been an hour. Just a quick reminder. I'm Bob Harris. If you didn't know who the hell I am, that's who I am. Sorry, Joe. HE double hockey sticks instead in the future. The new guy at Football Guys. You can find my work there. Thursday, the Fantasy Notebook. Friday, my collaboration with the great Gary Davenport. The Polarizing Players. Saturday, my In and Out, a horrifying article. Scares me to death every time I write it. Because I'm trying to pick some plays that maybe, are going to make you feel uncomfortable if you make them, but hopefully, you'll find the logic and the reasoning and go through it. So I lay it all out for you and give my predictions. So check it out if you get a chance. That's available every Saturday. You can catch me many days a week on the SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. Those days would be Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, 10 to midnight. Saturday night, also on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, but on NFL radio as well. Tonight's guest will be Michael F. Florio. The real Mike Florio from NFL Network will be our guest tonight. Then Sunday, 11 to 1, the pregame show on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio with the great Jeff Mans. Hello. Good morning. Good to see you. So let's see. I'll try to get through a few more of these questions here before we call it a day. Have I not changed my rankings? Good Lord. I thought I did that this morning. Boy, there's so much going on. Let me look. Alert. That's like an alarm bell. So many rankings to change. I did not get that changed yet. So I am changing that. And I'm playing Akers ahead of Zach Moss. So I'm actually playing him ahead of Aaron Jones. Oh my goodness. So I'm moving him up to about 22. I'm sorry, you guys. Thank you for pointing that out. If you see anything else, any other anomalies, shout. No, I'm not going to start singing Tears for Fears, I promise. I might. Good Lord, that was horrible. All right. Fix. Good Lord. The horror. Okay, let me see where I was on the questions. I was scrolling down to see what kind of comments that I've missed out on. Like my friend, Mr. like Wendy Early in the house, Mr. Scamper's in the house. Good Lord, I've missed everything. I fixed my expectations. I fixed them. Halfway, yeah. Like I'm probably playing Akers over Deontay, but I do like Deontay versus Las Vegas. We went through all that. I hope you can catch the replay. Oh my goodness. We'll get you there, man. We'll get you there. Hey, Ryan Olson. All right, let's try and race through some questions here. All right, you're playing Pollard this week. We do think since he's eating up Washington, and maybe Moss is a better play, but I'm playing Pollard and Charbonnet. So I like a Pollard, Charbonnet, and Moss this week. Roma Dunze or Zamir White in the flex. I'm playing Zamir White this week. You don't have to run off that cliff with me if you don't want, but I think it's a better play. Until we see more from Caleb Williams, I have a lot of Foreman too. Who to start in the flex, Harrison Jr. or K. Williams? Williams is a very common name. You're going to have to help me out there, Ash. I'm sorry. Probably Marvin Harrison Jr. He did not look at him at all. 0%. 10-man league. I don't think Jordan Love. will play. I don't think he will either. Should I drop him for Goff or Baker? Baker if I did. That makes me nervous, the Pierce thing, but I hear you. Do I drop Chase Brown and pick up Roma Dunze? I'm not against it. Not necessarily for it, but I'm not against it. The needs of your team would drive that. Oh, thank you. So the 3 and out is now the in and out. So go to the site right now, Victor Jones, and you'll find it there. It's basically I do an in and out at each position now. Similar thing. How do you feel about trading Ray Allen for T. Higgins, the last cup for the time being? I would do that. Someone told J-Mo William he won't keep out targeting before. He said, I'll take that bet. I see what you did there. Half-point PPR, Brian Thomas Jr., Waddle, Seattle, Reavers, Tennessee, or Wandale. I'm probably playing Thomas in this one. I don't feel great about him this week. I don't think it's good offense, but of those choices, I like him the best. I think he ranks the highest on the Football Guys projections as well. Saints versus Eagles sounds like a big, stupid shootout. I love it so much. Pre-snap motion for me is like a DFS juvenile song. Go. Thoughts on Madison versus Warren this weekend? Probably like Warren better. Like, and because why? I'm like a lemming running off the Zamir Whitecliff. Can't stop me. It's too good of a matchup. The Antonio Pierce, you can read about it in the in and out column. Antonio Pierce talking about getting him to 20 carries. The possibility, now that we've seen that they can like get a lead and maybe have a positive game script. How exciting is that? Are the AT Mary or Mason trip like super deep rosters? I would not. Remy, it's good to see you. I probably would not be doing that, Hoosier. College football, 30 minutes on DK, plan according. There you go. I don't watch the college football. I cover pro football. I'll get to the college guys later on when I read about them in the rookie scouting portfolio. Hey, Michael. Hey, glad to see you. I missed your question last week, and I apologize. Damn it. Sorry, Joe. TJ Watt had a brother who was pretty good too, right? That's is true. That's how far behind the questions I am. Non-PPR running back question, Pollard versus Green Bay. I'm playing Pollard this week. Thank you. Hey, Bob, who should I start my flex right now? I have Cam Akers. However, I have Javonte Williams, Darnell Mooney. I'm starting Cam Akers in this spot. I feel so stupid. Thank you, Royal Slade, for catching that. Let me tell you about trying to keep up with the rankings, kids. Bob Harris needs a little help, obviously. Pollard, Spears is hurt. Also, Pollard, if Spears wasn't hurt. I agree with this. Well, you should have already targeted Texas. I mean, it's clearly was Cam Akers. Damian Pierce has been beat up, but I think Akers might have been a guy anyway. Dario Ogunbowale, I think the receiving role is going to be minimal there. In the Chiefs backfield, at this point, Kareem Hunt's probably the only option for you, and it won't be a this week thing. PPR, Najee or Zamir. I'm playing Zamir. It's very close. I want to go to the projections because I think the projections are probably a more realistic standard than me. They like Zamir better too. 28 and 31. I think it's the Warren split. Now that Warren is back and Justin Fields, the rushing ability, I think that's taking the ceiling down for Mr. Najee Harris. And I'm usually very supportive of all the Harrises. This week, I am not. Start 3, Rice, Ayuk, Brian Thomas Jr., Shaheed, Devontae Smith, Monty. You have to start. So Rice, Devontae Smith, and Ayuk. I am already there. Nonsense. 103. What? Thank you. I appreciate that. Minshew Magic Baby getting my homie Cecil black room. Oh my God, that'll be big time. Sweep the leg, Max Crosby. And again, Cam Akers, I think, is a solid running back too. I now rank him accordingly. And also, I think there's running back one upside. I do like Deontay though this week. I think this is like one of those weeks where maybe Carolina gets a little something done. When they have the football, we saw Andy Dalton last year light a little spark in that big Adam Thielen game last year. Was super nice to have. And I think that game goes to Deontay, but I'm still playing Akers in this one. That you should not do, sir. Sutton or T. Higgins. If T. Higgins is off the injury report, I'm playing T. Higgins all day. Zare! I'm probably playing Akers there. Like if I need to swing for the Pence play on any roster, any given week, it's going to be worthy, right? But I think I'm going to play the sure volume. Sorry. When are you going to come on the hot seat? That's the real question. The people want to know, when is Zare Casabedian coming Tuesday on the hot seat? By the way, catch that this Tuesday. Stacey Perez from Fantasy and Frames will be talking waiver wire picks and helping you out. There's a little Brenton Strange love, but very little. I mean, like if you were like he's an available pivot. Like if you were playing Higgins and there was a sudden scratch, I'm not like going all in, but he is the guy there. If with Evans out, I mean, Luke Farrell not going to dominate the receptions at that position. Need 2: Brian Robinson, Akers, Ford, McConkey, Pickens. It's going to be Akers and probably Ford for me. Again, Brian Robinson, I like an awful lot. I think he's looked good. But I'm worried about the game script in this one. Zari likes Lad McConkey. Pitt has been vulnerable versus the slop. I'm still worried about the pass rush, but the quicker passes might do well. Yes, I'm hurrying because my time is almost up here, and I hate to not answer questions, but I'm not going to get to all of them. But I'm going to get to a few more. Full PPR, have McBride, need a flexible Laporta or Byron Roberts Jr. and X Worthy or Khalil. So I'd probably taken Worthy over Shakir, but I do like Shakir this week. I'm probably taking Brian Robinson Jr. over Laporta until I see something. I'm not going to get too excited about Laporta. Sunk cost, deal with it. I say that kindly. McCaffrey on IR, need RBs. Currently have ETN, Swift, Madison, Chase, Brown, Bucky, Jalen. I mean, it's not a bad trade. I don't know if it helps you a ton. Brian Robinson Jr. and Kincaid for Likely and Madison. No, I'm not doing that. I mean, I think you have enough running backs on board to cobble together. I mean, you get one starter. Do you feel better about that? I mean, you've got 2 starters there, 2 solid starters, and some guys that may rise up, some contingent upside guys. I don't know. That's a tough call. It's not an unfair trade. Corum and Davis. Corum and Davis. Corum and Davis. You got to give me the names, people. At the moment, all right. I'm not going to get to all these, so I don't know what Tresner's got going on here. Yeah, the Vikings defense is fairly good, but volume matters to me. All right. All right. This is very entertaining. I'm going to sign off for today and be back next week. Thank all my friends for coming. Love you all. You're fantastic people. Remember for next week. And I know nobody thinks it's personal, Tresner. We're all fine. Everyone gets their point of view here. Get here earlier, please. All right. I'm sorry. I can't get to every question, or I would. There's way more than I can get to. So I'm going to hit the road. Again, if you have more questions, if you didn't get your question answered, call Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio tonight. It's NFL radio number, so it's a different number, but we'll be putting it out on the Twitter. You can check it out. We'll be doing a 3-hour show. We take calls throughout the show, so check that out. If you didn't get your questions answered, go check out my fantasy notebook. Many questions answered there every week on Thursdays. My polarizing players collaboration with Gary Davenport on Fridays, and my in and out where I make some edgy picks and not just chalk plays. In fact, totally opposite of chalk plays. So here we go. I will see you Tuesday. Stacey Perez, Fantasy and Friends will be with me. Cecil and Sig will be here throughout the rest of the weekend doing their usual show, so don't miss out on that. Also, Kluge and Alfredo on the Football Guys Fantasy Football channel, on the Dynasty channel. You got Jagger and Jeff Bell doing great stuff. So check it all out. The Sunday pregame show as well is fantastic. And if you can't catch that one, catch me on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio with Jeff Mans. I'm Bob Harris signing off. Have a great week. Let's go win.